Welcome. We're looking at the parable of the weeds from Matthew chapter 13. Jesus told them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like a man who sowed good seed in his field, but while everyone was sleeping, his enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat and went away. When the weeds sprouted and formed heads, then the weeds also appeared. The owner's servants came to him and said, "Sir, didn't you sow good seed in your field? Where then did the weeds come from?" "An enemy did this," he replied. The servants asked him, "Do you want us to go and pull them up?" "No," he answered, "because while you're pulling the weeds, you may uproot the wheat with them. Let both grow together until the harvest. At that time I'll tell the harvesters, first collect the weeds and tie them in bundles to be burned, then gather the wheat and bring it into my barn." Then there's a bit of a gap in the text. He left the crowd and went to the house, and his disciples came to him and said, "Explain to us the parable of the weeds in the field." He answered, "The one who sowed the good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world, and the good seed stands for the people of the kingdom. The weeds are the people of the evil one, and the enemy who sows them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the age, and the harvesters are angels. As the weeds are pulled up and burned in the fire, so it will be at the end of the age. The Son of Man will send out his angels, and they'll weed out of his kingdom everything that causes sin and all who do evil. They will throw them into the blazing furnace, where there'll be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Then the righteous will shine like the sun in the kingdom of their Father. Whoever has ears, let them hear." It's the gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, O Christ. So here we are, the parable of the wheat and the weeds. There's wheat on the top, there's the weeds, darnel, a sort of a ryegrass at the bottom, and it looks quite similar to wheat, and it's only when it comes into head that you can see that there's a difference in the types of heads. And the wheat seed is golden, this weed is a grey coloured seed. And the problem with it is, and you can get it with some rye seeds as well, you get a fungus on it, ergot, which causes serious health consequences. So in the Middle East they know this weed, and in peasant situations the people have to go through and pick out each seed so that they get the next crop ready for the harvest. And if you end up eating too much of this, you get sick. So what are we noticing here? There's good seed sowed. That's really important. Then there's this horrible enemy. Here's a 14th or 15th century picture of some demonic figure with rooster feet or whatever sowing the bad seed. The enemy comes and sows bad seed, and this seed can cause serious sickness. And the workers are distressed that something's gone wrong with the planting. But the boss rejects the worker solution. They want to go straight in and sort it out. He chooses to let the weeds keep growing rather than accidentally uproot any good plans. His plan? Just before harvest, when it's quite obvious which are which. Workers can go in, they'll gather the weeds, cut them down, bundle them, and dry them for fuel for their cooking fires. So the contrasts are, there's seed that nourishes and seed that sickens. And for all of us, there are things that build up life and are good. There are things that diminish and destroy. But God's at work in both of those and always works for good. So there's a good boss and there's an enemy. And finally, the bad weeds, even they are used for a good purpose because they're fuel for the little cooking fires. So there's a whole lot of opposites in this parable. And the parable deliberately holds the opposites together. There's wheat and weeds, good seed, bad seed. And we know that opposites holding together in our own lives. There are things we do really well and there are things we do badly. We're saints, totally forgiven, and we're also sinners who each Sunday need to confess their sins and receive again the gift of forgiveness. We don't get everything right all the time. No way. So there's pure, impure, and life under God seems to include both. God's able to hold it all together. And maybe we need to grow and learn to hold things together as well, rather than just jumping straight in. Whoa, what are the things that have happened to you that you never signed up for? Difficult things or things that went wrong or didn't go the way that you wanted or planned. I think all our lives include those things. None of us have a perfectly easy or a perfectly straightforward life. So one of the things I'm asking myself is, when is the situation I'm in a time that I have to wait rather than jump in and do some sort of quick fix? Because there are times when zealous efforts to eradicate evil or fix something up actually cause more evil. And there are always unintended consequences that I won't be aware of, but I'll only discover later. So when do I wait, or when do I act? And maybe even the categorizing into good and bad can cause problems, particularly if I go into attack mode when I see the bad. And there are times when I have to act. It's so important to act. When people are being choked out, when something is wrong and people are being injured or abused or mistreated, then I'm called to act. And this simple parable actually has political overtones because Jesus is preaching and teaching in a time when there's the kingdom of Rome, which says very clearly, we're the ones that provide peace, we're the ones that hold it all together, and we have divine power and divine blessing to do that. So it's almost like a fake kingdom. There's a kingdom of heaven, the one of the Son of Man, and there's a kingdom of Rome. And there are times for all of us when we're caught up in political things and we need to work out, what does it mean to be Christian and how do I act? So what we do notice is it's not our job to strike down others. The workers wanted to jump straight in and fix it. God said no. But there are times to act when our own stuff has to be dealt with or worked through, our own shadow or our own issues. And we'll see that most clearly in our interactions with others. If people are being hurt by what we do, the way we're exploding or acting or judging, then maybe there's some stuff in us that needs to be worked through and sorted and some sort of healing found. So finally, where's the good news in this text? As you can tell, it hasn't sort of grabbed me. Well, what's the good news? Well, the enemy is the devil. There was a time when Jesus called Peter Satan. It's coming up in a few chapters' time in Matthew. Jesus asked the disciples, "Who do you say I am?" And Peter jumps in and says, "You're God's anointed. You're the Messiah. You're the Christ. Well done, Peter." And then he goes on to tell Peter and all the disciples, and this is the sort of Christ or Messiah I'm going to be. I'm going to be one who is arrested, who loses all his power, who gives up his life on the cross, that the whole world might be forgiven and have new life. And Peter says, "No way, we don't want that sort of a Christ. That's not you." And Jesus says, "Get behind me, Satan," to Peter. So even Peter, who's one of the great disciples, got things wrong. We get things wrong. So where's the good news in this? It's never just plain good seed or bad seed. God works and transforms all our lives. And if there are things that need sorting out in our lives and attitudes that need changing, we can trust the Holy Spirit to do that. So we're never trapped in that bad category that maybe others put ourselves in or that we put ourselves into. We're never trapped there in God's kingdom. And the good news is we don't have to sort everybody and everything out. So often we feel that pressure to jump in and be the Messiah or the Christ. We're not called to do that. That's God's work. We take part in it, but we're not called to sort everyone out. And finally, keep remembering, God always plants good seed. He's planted good seed in your life, and He's planted good seed in my life. Hold on to that and look for ways to show love and care and trust in action. Blessings.